Good afternoon to our kind people of Venezuela. A happy meal for you all. As you all know, this week, the Dialogue Commission, the Commission of Dialogue and Encounter with all social, cultural, economic factors, the National Assembly has been holding a series of encounters with all political factions. I refer to all political groups that participate in the political life of our homeland to talk about chronological elements, temporary constitutional elements regarding the year 2025, which is an electoral year. And we summoned these 38 political parties who have participated in the presidential elections on July 28, 2024, and I have to say that they all participate. All political parties participated in the meeting, and so we had the intention to summon the 4 governors of state Zulia, Marinas, and Nueva Esparta that were elected by the opposition in 2021. Unfortunately, all governors participated, or if one of them couldn't make it, and sent a special envoy. And so last November was held an election to elect governors of the 23 states of the country and municipal councils of the municipalities and legislators of the legislative commissions in that time of the 23 states of the country. On December 6th, 2020, a year earlier, elections were held to elect the National Assembly, the legislators of the National Assembly of Venezuela, because posts in Venezuela have to be elected by the people. In the case of legislators, men and women, are 5 years. In case of mayors and governors, are just 4 years in office. The other thing that it's been talked are just fantasies, that the everlasting legislator, or that doesn't exist. What's really exists are institutions and the public powers established in this constitution. That the mayors and that this post only lasts 4th and 5th term, and so that's why in the year 2025 we will be holding at least 9 elections, and it is likely that we hold 10 elections. The 6 consultations that, through the proposal of President Nicolas Maduro, allows that the people of community of the neighborhoods, of the houses of the people, can elect the most corresponding, the most unprecedented project for them to perform. And so we will hold 4 consultations for those projects and 2 consultations for other crucial stuff, and so peaceful consultations. But besides, we have to elect the parliament too, because on November 5th, 1996, it is installed the new legislature, the new parliament, and we have to elect governors of the 24 states of the country, because in this election, by law, as we abided by law, we must elect the governor of the state of Guyana Esequiba. we must elect the regional governors of the 24 states and the over hundreds of mayors, municipality mayors, and so consequently this dialogue commission board is here. The legislator Nicolás Guerra, who is the first vice president of that commission, and the second vice president of that commission too, and the board of directors of the National Assembly, Pedro Infante, America Perez, legislators. And so we have the task to listen to political factors, to all the sectors of society and we listen to their opinions of when do they want to hold the elections, because an election is not a date, a deadline only. It's not a date. Maybe some people think that it is just to go to the polls, but the National Electoral Council, as the president and the authorities know, that each election requires a timetable, and that the electoral event is launched even before being summoned. The parliamentary election will be that date. That's why there is an array of coordinations of logistical meetings, events. It is a whole process. So we are in a very interesting situation in which we have to deal with how to place these 10 electoral events in the months as of January till December this year. It is not an easy task. That's why we went through consulting the whole process, and so we have written all in this proposal, which has two parts. The first one is regarding the general elements of the elections, how it's gonna be held, the summon of the political parties, of the voters, of those eligible for being nominated, abided by the Constitution and the laws, or for example, as the organic law of electoral processes. We have to learn how to take care of the electoral events. We have to learn from the previous experience how the electoral process was attacked by external factors, by media outlets and social media and artificial intelligence. So those are elements to be discussed, to take care of the electoral power and the people, the Venezuelan people, that the Venezuelan voters have the right to vote for they want, and not for Musk or Ivan Duque or any other. And the event of the financing electoral campaigns, the catastrophic situation that we have noticed in some human beings that don't deserve to be called Venezuelans, because they are calling for military actions against Venezuela, for external inventions against Venezuela. All those are elements impacting this call of peace that the National Electoral Council must do. And the second part is that to propose proposals, I insist. According to this constitution, the only authority in condition to organize, summon, develop, counting up ballots, proclaim elected nominees, and deliver the credentials to direct officials is the National Electoral Council. It's 10 principal rectors and and other subordinate entities. And there is no other entity that has the condition to make decisions in electoral terms. So that's why we have come with proposals from the political parties. How is going to be how is going to be the elections together, divided, and so some point out that we have to hold elections very soon. Maybe, in fact, on February, uh, on January 26th, we are going to hold the first one. That's the reason. So we have to set the timetable, and that's why we are here. We have been very welcomed by the electoral power and by the all authorities here. And I have been informed, the President Elvis Amoroso informed me that they have decided to call for a permanent session of the National Electoral Council to not only analyze the document but also mull over the whole year and try to make the first approach to the electoral programs, to the electoral timetables of these electoral events, of these 9 or 10 electoral events. So I am open to questions. Greetings. Good afternoon. First, I want to ask how can you guarantee a clear and transparent elections, taking into account that there are some sectors who have requested the renewal of or change of the National Electoral Council. Meanwhile, if the Commission is going to present some proposals to avoid attacks on the National Electoral Council's website, considering the previous attacks on the presidential elections, and after being enacted the law of Simón Bolívar, how are gonna be the ones who have been attacking the authorities? Well, we have proposed almost the whole year. There are a lot of dates, but an election is not only a date, it is a whole timetable, and the timetable has some lapses, some gaps established in the law that which cannot be shortened or longer, and so there is a certain kind of narrowed in the electoral event. So regarding clear and transparent elections, all political parties participating in these meetings have pointed out that the fundamental principles were the respect of constitution, of electoral laws, of the independence of the nation, sovereignty, preserving peace. No one talked about changing the National Electoral Council. No one said it. They referred about what I am talking about. So you are all right. The National Electoral Council and the state must establish mechanism to safeguard the expression through the votes of the Venezuelans. From the brutal attacks received by the National Electoral Council on July 28th election, fortunately sought out by the electoral power, and besides the direct attacks of the electoral system, of its transmission system, also the attack on the right that we have to be posted with veracity, with freedom of expression, and a few owners of the great companies of social media, they just meddle in the internal lives of people, and they try to change reality and replace it with based on their own interests, and that is something that we have to debate on, and we have to take care of the people's rights for them to vote for the for the one they are willing to rule, because those the Duque, all the fascist people, all these fascist bugs are just supposed to meddle into get into the people's minds and to influence the human minds. And so those are paramount elements to discuss, and we have been talking about this lately, and about the law of Simon Bolivar against the blockade and the protection of Venezuela. It is in force. It is approved by the National Assembly, and it has been enacted by the constitutional president, and so that law goes directly to the protectionist elements. For never again happened that a candidate said that after losing a campaign that to invade Venezuela. Elections are the right for people to choose to elect their representatives. It is the people's rights, and in second place, it is the freedom to elect. And so that the law of Simon Bolivar is going to protect those situations in any place in the world. To do a parliamentary, well, we have reviewed, and there is no a single country that accepts in its rules, in its regulations, that an elected person or a candidate being an agent of an external power. For example, if a U.S. senator receives a payment of an external power, well, that is unacceptable. Equally happens in Europe, and they have harsher regulations, and we count on the law of Simon Bolivar, which is fully in force. Lisandro Rojas for media outlet. Days later, during this dialogue table of the National Commission with all political parties, we have been able to know that within the opposition, they have the proposal not to allow in elections those who disregarded the National Electoral Council and the governmental authorities. For example, I asked you if you could prevent from participating those who have violated these entities. And so how can you see the electoral laws? Are you confident that these electoral laws be renewed for these new parliamentary elections? Well, the organic law of electoral processes points out the requirements for being nominated, and it expresses said that the requirements for being a candidate, it is those established by Constitution. So not being a minor and all that, but the electoral processes says in the Constitution and the laws, the political party laws and the organic code for the penal code, and also the organic law of Simon Bolivar to protect Venezuela against the blockade, and the new law that we have passed at the National Assembly to be able to legislate and rule the functioning of the NGOs in Venezuela. All those laws related to regulate the functioning of the state, and in this case the functioning of the electoral role of the electoral system. So on the other side, there is a hardship, a hindrance for preventing the organic law of the electoral processes. This law cannot be modified before earlier than 6 months from the elections. Just the organic law of the electoral processes. All the rest of the laws can be revised, and we are still working in those dialogue commissions, and so it is likely that there will be an array of regulations for running elections in 2025, and it is likely that we make some proposals for the electoral power, and then the electoral power will work alongside with us in these proposals. To finish, Mariana Mato for VTV. 3 questions. First, it has to do with the participation of this summon of dialogue for the opposition governors, including Manuel Rosales. I would like to know that if he's going to participate in these elections, taking into account that he disregarded the elections on July, and also there have been threats about the expelling him of this political. Well, I would like to know how are you preparing for the elections on Guyana Esequiba and on the opposition. And I would like to know also that if you consider to meet with other entities of the states to guarantee the development of the elections for this year 2025. Well, thank you. I will begin by the end. Well, the ball is already here. The National Electoral Council is the only authority accredited, authorized, the only authority for the Constitution to arrange, develop, and call other public entities to collaborate in the electoral event. That is what we are doing. That is what the National Electoral Council is doing. By declaring in permanent sessions, they will be working on that process, and so they will be counting up numbers, papers, documents, and timetables. They will be designing timetables models, including the other legislative powers like the judicial power, and so they need to consult the ombudsman office, and if there is any person that wants to be candidate, but they have to be eligible, and so etc., etc. So it is an array of events from the moment that the National Electoral Council declares to be in permanent session. We have to say that at those meetings, 37 out of 38 political factors have attended, including the credentials of Governor of Zulia, Conjedes, and of the state Sparta. All and of course all parties involved representing the great patriotic pole, and all parties of the democratic opposition who've been favored by votes and who won by votes and have mayors, men and women, and they have a lot of interest. And we have to say that these factors of democratic opposition, they have never stopped participating in the electoral events. On the contrary, they have always boosted the institutionality of the vote as an element to address the social and political issues of Venezuela. So we have to ask them which are their intentions, but we have new laws, and we have laws that must be respected. Here there's an element, because it is how constitutions work, how legislations work. Let me give you an example. The so-called attack of the Twin Towers. This generated some loss at the United States. The direct responses to that event occurred in December 2002, 2001. And so the law of entrepreneurs that we have approved last year, and so the barbaric, absurd situation that someone who has been born in this territory that's requesting invasion, and the response was the law of Simon Bolivar, which must be respected, and the National Electoral Council, of course, will take into account all laws regarding elect or being elected. With respect to Diana Esequiba, the National Electoral Council is in charge of arranging all the electoral process there, and so the Venezuelan people ordered us in the consultative referendum organized by the National Electoral Council, which by absolute majority they responded yes to the 5 questions they aroused, and so in that sense we have to count up with the election.